jumping in it is awkwardly sitting silent, staring at the thing. Welcome to this show.
Well, I
Uh,
got like kind of the light. Like I'm coming to you live from heaven. Um, but I didn't just
uh,
go to heaven. My entire house did. It
Justin.
was like I have like the balloons from Up. Just
Every
like
every
took my
Matlock's
house.
gone to the rapture.
Yeah, that's the sequel. It's a first person shooter.
Yeah, screw
A
those
little more
walking sims.
little more hardcore.
So yeah, welcome to. Hopefully, this show. At least it actually started this time instead of last week where we talked for like 10 minutes and realized it wasn't streaming. Because
Yeah,
between the two of us, for whatever reason, I'm the one that's trusted to like actually handle that end of things. But
trust it, and also you have like the software shit to do it, and I'm
I'm
lazy.
blessed.
I did the editing duties on this dumb show for 2 years. I felt comfortable handing the reins over to you.
Yes. In fairness, you did a lot more work when it was the audio show. We had to like cut in
Yeah.
and out stuff, but
I
anyway,
uh I was watching actually somebody else edit their podcast. Like this is the rich life I lead. I was watching him edit a podcast on
live. I
Twitch.
hope. Yes.
Yeah,
Sweet.
absolutely. No, I watched the recorded video. It was that interesting. Um, and he was like, I liked the podcast. It was it's like a group of animators and stuff, and it's just this weird collective they build. It's called sleepycabin.com. They have their own podcast. But I thought it was really weird how they were editing it, where like the guy was just like going through it, just like, we don't need this pause, we don't need that pause. Like natural pauses in conversation, he was just cutting out completely. And it was really like when you listen to the final product, you don't notice it. It just sounds like a normal conversation. But when you know those pauses were originally there, it's so fucking awkward to see like somebody like, so I was going to lunch, and then like
Uh,
like the sentences pick up midway through, and it was really weird.
it's funny because I do that to the when I export now the audio version for iTunes. We're on iTunes. I say that to everybody I meet. Hi, I'm on iTunes. Um,
Official.
I'll do that a little bit, but only to like the first maybe 3 minutes of the show, and then you're like, yeah, fuck it. Like,
I'll edit like pauses, or whenever I did edit the show, I would edit pauses sometimes, and I would edit spikes in audio and all that good stuff. But I always liked, like, my favorite podcasts always kept those natural pauses,
yeah,
and
I
like
the real reason I only do it for like the first 3 minutes or 4 minutes of show is usually the really really bad awkward pauses are like right as we're starting, and now that we do it live, where you're like kind of waiting for it to the stream to actually kick in.
right.
But yeah,
Well, like I do these Dark Souls streams, and allegedly, it took me almost a week to do my next one, but I did that like 2 days ago. But you have to. I noticed that like the audio gets like the beginning of the stream gets cut when you export it to YouTube, so there's just this awkward like, all right, wait at least 10 seconds before I say anything, and introduce the episode. Um, but yeah,
but
like
see,
I just thought it was
look,
weird.
we're growing up. We're becoming professional Twitchers.
Yeah, growing up playing video games for the internet, something I should have gotten out of my system at 15. But what can you do?
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I just thought it was like it was kind of like, I don't want to say it took something away from that show because it's still a really entertaining podcast to me, but like I always like that fly on the wall sort of
Right.
dynamic. It's kind of why I don't like people like popular websites like they do live shows at like conventions and stuff, and like it's okay, but I really just don't like when like guys are having a conversation and then they like play to the crowd, and it's
Well,
like,
it's tough because then if you're not in the crowd, you're watching it after the fact. It's like, oh yeah,
right. Well, it's just kind of, "Oh, so what was the shittiest job you ever worked? I don't know. What do you think, crowd?" Like,
yeah.
it's, I don't give a fuck about
That
that.
said, I would love to do our show live from like a bar. Like those podcasts
Yeah.
work. Because nobody else there's paying any fuck attention to you. There's what are those idiots in the corner with the microphone?
That's like the asterisk on this entire point is, but if I was on stage and people were laughing for me, then I would be all for it.
I always thought doing a panel would be really fun. The tough part about it for me is I don't know shit about anything. So it's like, oh, I'm gonna pitch this next panel for PAX. It's called Steve Just Talks into a Microphone. Like that's what it would be. You get all the good ones like, well, how to do this, how to break into the industry, or design games, or this or that, or even just like, oh, community hour with the Giant Bombcast or whatever. And then it would be like, here's Steve, nervous as shit because he thinks it would be fun, but as soon as he's in front of a crowd, that would just go out the fucking window. And I'd be just like rambling like I am now, except worse. Live. But you get one of those really cool exhibitor badges, so you could be like, look, I'm an exhibitor.
Yeah, and keep it forever. Keep it like it'll be you probably don't watch Better Call Saul, but like the beginning of that, like that show, like it's like a flash forward to everything that happens to that character after Breaking Bad, and like he's a manager. The character's like a manager of a Cinnabon, and like and then like he goes back to like it looks in his like box of memories, like I was somebody once, and
yeah,
everything I learned from TV.
That just kind of came back on a couple weeks ago, didn't it? The new. God,
it's a really good show.
It looks really good. And it's just it's the same problem I had with Breaking Bad in the first place, where it's like, yeah, that looks like I'd like it, and then by the time I actually find time to watch it, it's 8 seasons in, and I'm like, yeah, that's too much to catch up on.
But like the cool thing about Better Call Saul is like it helps to know what happens, but like I mean, you can kind of infer like Breaking Bad does not end well for the people involved. So you can kind of infer that, and because it's a prequel, like you can go into that show kind of cold. Like and so far,
and that's why I meant to like when they announced it, I was going to watch it for that. You could just tell from the way they marketed it. It's like you said, it would help if I know this, but they're
like I do think if you like you should watch all of Breaking Bad anyway because it's fucking amazing. But I do think you get more out of it. Like there's one episode in particular that just focuses on the Mike character, who I don't know if you got that far and met him.
I literally watched like the first episode and a half.
That's fucking shameful, Steve. You gotta fucking watch it.
What's funny is like that's the
crap.
Society is just like they love binge watching TV, and I fucking hate. I don't
want you to even binge watch it, but you've had years.
Well,
like you had all the time in the world.
The thing is, like, I almost never watch anything that Tara's not interested in because if she's not watching TV, I'm not watching TV. Like,
but
it's
like,
weird.
To me, it is shameful that we spend God knows how much fucking time talking about Daredevil, and you've only watched like an episode and a half of Breaking Bad. And
Daredevil's one that I watched the first like whole half of that season until I got like hardcore addicted to it while I was coding in Unity. So it like that's the only reason I even got through that as fast as I did. Is it was like I need something on while I'm doing something else, and then it was like, oh shit, I really like this. But
that is you make my heart hurt.
That's what I'm best at.
Did you
Steve Heartbreak Gibson?
Did you ever get around to seeing Deadpool?
No.
I watched that yesterday.
We'll probably see it soon, except for Tuesday nights were the nights that we were going to the movies. Then there was some like scheduling things where people wouldn't be available, and then for a couple weeks there was just crap in the theater.
I would say like I tweeted about it, but honestly, if you have something that you are just as interested in seeing, if not more, I would say go see.
Well, that's the thing. I'm not interested at all in Deadpool. I never was. I don't like the character to begin with, and all the trailers that they showed, and everybody's like, "Oh wow, ha ha ha," and this and that. I'm like, and I would say
if the trailers turn you off to it, the movie will be a million times worse. Like my brother's exact words were, "I thought it was awful."
Yeah.
Um,
But people
I
love it. I mean, I've heard
I
so many
like
people.
Deadpool, okay, but you know, I kind of left the theater. I was like, it's all right. I won't ever watch it again, probably. It's just a movie that keeps trying to like outdo itself in like every way. Pretty much, like the jokes aren't. They don't feel like they're there because like the writers thought it was actually funny. The jokes are there because Deadpool needs jokes and quips all the time, and it feels like they're just constantly trying to top all the jokes, and yeah, it just becomes kind of exhausting. And that's always been Deadpool's thing, is that he's a little fucking too much to like deal with. Um, you know, the only thing I really came away from positively was like, you know, Deadpool would be a great addition to like an actual X-Men movie, because every time he's just mocking
Well,
the X-Men, it's fucking hilarious. Because it's like,
that's what if you had that humor like up against like a more serious like other superheroes running around like not we're just a big joke that I don't know maybe it would work better.
yeah, and the problem is this is Deadpool's story, and it's really grounded, and they spend a really long time on the origin, even though it's the same fucking origin that every goddamn superhero mutant has in these fucking movies. But like it was okay. Like it's the total like just turn off your brain thing. You know, I laughed at some spots, but most of the time, you just sort of like you just smile at it and like, oh wow, it's creative how they did that with a really low budget. Um, but then like yeah, like I said, it's really forgettable.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, then I'm not sad that like I said I didn't want to see it at all, but my wife and her friend really want to see it.
I
But we've
wanted to see it because people were telling me, so many people were telling me, like at work, that it was really good, but they were liars.
yeah,
They're fucking dirty,
bastards.
scum liars,
It wasted your time and your money.
and they will pay. Um,
But well, we've talked about. I'm not the biggest like superhero person to begin with, but there's
me either,
exceptions.
but that's why I kind of like Deadpool, is when he's interacting with the rest of that universe, he's taking the piss out of it,
Yeah,
and and I thought there would be a lot more, because his whole thing is that he breaks the fourth wall just to death.
yeah.
Like he's always talking to the audience, and they do it a little bit, but I was surprised how little like he actually talks to the crowd um in the movie. Like he does it like 4 or 5 times, like from what I remember. And like I kind of like how they do it. Like they set it up to be this interesting thing where like, oh, he's going crazy because like he's talking to the audience and the other characters can hear him and they're like, who are you talking, like what are you talking about? And it's like, I'm not talking to you. And like I thought they would do more with that, and they kind of don't. So I don't know. I was just curious if you had any plans to see it.
We'll probably see it. I mean, it's not something that I don't know. Not something that I'm like can't wait to go see. And why
Right.
does it feel like as far as I can tell, it's only been two, no, three. But it feels to me like Ryan Reynolds plays every superhero. Like,
Well, that's he makes jokes about that in the movie, where like when his character's going under into the operation that will turn him into Deadpool, and like the whole idea is like he's gonna like he thinks he's going to be a superhero, and he's like, you know, I don't want a green suit, I don't want a green suit or have it be animated
yeah,
or any like he's like I think he did Green Lantern.
yeah, he did, and it looks like he played Wolverine in X Men Origins.
No,
Oh no,
he
sorry, he
played
played
Dead.
Wade Wilson.
But it was a different Deadpool. Like they
Yeah,
just completely detached from all
I
that. But they
completely misread
reference
that,
it.
but
Like they reference like the shit his character went through in that. But
yeah, so it's funny because it's only two, but it feels to me like it's because him and there's another one that plays a couple different superheroes that they kind of remind me of each other, so that doesn't help. But
Chris Evans.
yeah, yeah.
He did Human Torch, and now he's Captain America.
But the other problem is every time I like Ryan Reynolds, but I can't see him without thinking of that stupid movie, The Proposal, because my wife watches it all the fucking time. It's one of those movies that's on TV like 3 times at any given weekend.
Yeah.
But then she'll act like, "Oh, well, I've never watched it all the way through." I'm like, "Bullshit!" When I can say like every line.
I have watched it all the way through. I know that movie by heart now.
and if I know scenes from it, she's watched it, because it's not like I'm sitting here at home like, all right, alone time with the TV, let's watch The Proposal.
Yeah, my mom's like a huge Sandra Bullock fan, and so yeah, I know that movie. Like I think her favorite movie is like While You Were Sleeping, and I know that movie by heart because she fucking played it throughout my childhood.
There's like 4 weddings or 2 wedding bitches or like wedding fights. I don't know. Pretty much every wedding movie that there is, my wife's watched 1,000 times. And it's funny because she'll argue with me. She'll be like, I have never seen this movie. It's like bull fucking shit, because there's no way in hell I saw it without you.
Like, you know, you could make an entire like Sandra Bullock drinking game about like just, you know, if she ruins her own wedding, you know, fucking
and that's the thing,
slam your drink.
And my wife's like, oh, anytime we're talking about it, she's like, yeah, Steve hates Sandra Bullock. And I'm like, I don't really hate her. She's a great actress. It's just I hate the types of movies that she tends to be in.
Well, yeah, like I would argue that her movies are probably better than a lot of movies in that ilk.
Sure, and she's a great actress. It's just,
but it's that ilk is really fucking bad, and it's all very samey. Like, you know, it's all they're very paycheck films.
Yeah,
like they're just rom-com by the numbers.
She gets so mad at me because they'll start and I'll be like, I bet you the guy she's with is an asshole, and then this other guy that's the on the main billing here, probably they fall in love, but they shouldn't be, and then they realize they should be, then they fight, and then at the last minute they'll probably end up together. Like,
so what we are saying is Sandra Bullock for Deadpool 2.
Yeah. Well, what I'm really saying is, if Hollywood's taught me anything, because you always get this like, oh, nice guys, you know, they never get the women. Women don't really want nice guys. Yeah, they do. I've seen plenty of movies, but you're approaching it wrong. You have to go up to somebody that's already with somebody, get them to like you, then fight with them.
Yeah.
Because that fight's the important part. You could be a nice guy, but invent some ridiculous fucking fight that no real couple would actually separate over. And then at the last minute, she'll come running back to you.
Well, it's the type of fight that normal people would probably, you know, they would blow up at each other, and then they would like talk about it maybe the next day, and cooler heads would prevail. But in Hollywood, you got to get a plane ticket, and you're going to, fuck it, I'm going to Vietnam, and you can't stop me. And then like you
don't worry, you don't have to actually go to Vietnam, because the person will come running down the runway at the last minute. And like, they won't end up in federal prison for some reason, because airports understand true love.
Right. Like they take, you know, bomb threats extremely seriously, unless the bomber's in love.
Right. You skip through security, but I love him. Okay. Well, except it's normally the guy.
Yeah, and it's always like some like some nice old lady, like, you know, the security guard might be a bit of a dick, but some old lady would be like, "Oh, he's in love. Let him go." And
she might even, if it's a rom-com with an emphasis on the com, she might even throw in a body block for you.
Yeah. Well, no, she'll stop like the asshole boyfriend from trying to stop you.
One punch, knock him cold, and he won't sue because it's love. Like
this went from like Sandra Bullock to like Adam Sandler.
Yeah. Well, that's how you end up with the guy rom-com. And I still debate that most of them still aren't like movies that I'd be like, yes, I want to see that. It's just they made some that are more tolerable. Like, you're not watching Steel Magnolia, you're watching 50 First Dates, and it's like, I still have to watch this, but
that's the right response to 50 First Dates is God.
Yeah. But at least it's comedy, and Drew Barrymore, I like her. But not in that movie. That's a terrible movie. I don't know why you said it as an
Wedding
excuse.
Singer's better if you want
Yes.
that type of
Yes. A
movie.
Wedding
It's
Singer
got Steve
I love.
Buscemi.
And it's got one of my favorite lines of any movie ever because I use it all the time with the "It was a cone" when he's making his buddy prove himself. And it's funny because I don't think it's supposed to. I mean, it's meant to be said like funny, but obviously it wasn't like one of their "here's our big joke moment" in the script. But just
Yeah.
the way he says it and the way it comes up whenever you can use it in real life, it's a very versatile. That's actually not versatile at all. There has to be a cone involved, but
Right.
But, it could be ice cream cone, a traffic cone,
Yeah.
some other kind of cone that I can't think of.
So yeah, this has been the Enjoy Film podcast.
Yes.
I don't know why I felt the need to talk about fucking Deadpool. I let us down a slippery
So, yeah.
trap there. Um,
Because we
Video
do
games.
we do have games to talk about from my understanding. Are you playing Far Cry?
yes.
I'm jealous.
But I feel like I go first every time we do currently playing.
Yeah, that's usually because you've got a plethora of things to talk about.
Yeah,
It's like-
I have a smorgasbord
and
here.
I'm like, yeah, I was playing a fishing simulator where you
Yeah.
catch fish in a lake.
where you catch fish and once the fish are caught, they're yours forever.
Unless you throw them back.
Unless, well, in spirit, they're yours. Their souls and their power belong to you.
I did play something. In fact, I was kind of rushing to post it because I wanted to post it prior to the podcast, just because I got more to add to it that wouldn't really fit in the written piece. But the Division's open beta weekend was this last weekend. We talked about it during the closed beta a couple weekends ago, and I really enjoyed the game. I didn't get as much time to play with it this weekend as I would have liked to have, but I still spent hours in it. So mostly I wanted to shut myself in my house and be a hermit and do nothing but that, but I did the opposite.
Sounds like a
But-
good idea.
The more like I play it, it's funny because the parts of the game that I was looking forward to are turning out to be the parts of the game that are kind of like, I don't hate them, but they're not like drop everything to play this game. And specifically, I mean, like the story mode, it's not really single player because you can group up, but it's like Destiny where it's like you have your missions and your overworld. And if you group up with people ahead of time, they'll be, I guess Destiny, there's always other people running around, but the story content's instanced, so you're running around New York City, but you won't run into another player unless they're in your group that you grouped up ahead of time. And that part of the game, I mean, it's workable. I mean, it's not terrible to play, but it's very that sounded like drumming in my ear. That was a little,
Sorry.
it's just funny.
I forgot to link the show.
It's the soundtrack to my life. It's like, oh, here's Ben not listening anymore.
No, I heard you.
Yeah, it's fun, but I mean, it's very like rinse, wash, repeat. Like, oh, go here now. This gang has hostages, free them, and whatever. And it's really all about upgrading your base so you get better skills. That's how you unlock your like skills and perks and stuff. And of course, finding loot so you get better weapons and gear and outfit items and whatever. So that's all your typical RPG, MMO-y stuff, except for the single player. Guild Wars is what it reminds me a lot of, that style of multiplayer. But then the Dark Zones, which we talked about, those are the ones that are PvP enabled. Other players are running around. Within the story of the game, their context are they're these extra dangerous parts of the city because they're the most contaminated, so they've been walled off. But in doing so, like just the rioting, vigilante, like violence has run rampant because and we've seen that throughout history when there's like been real struggles and outbreaks and stuff. It basically turns them into slums where you rule by power or killing people. But in the game, the way it works is there's other agents running around, and by default you're neutral or good or whatever. You're not flagged, but you always can attack any other player that you want. Doing so marks you as rogue. What that really does is it makes you show up on the map to other players and lets them know that you're killing other players, but they get XP and stuff for taking you down. So there's incentive. If you go rogue, it's not just like, oh, whatever. You're gonna have people coming back after you, let alone whoever you killed, probably
So what you're
seeking
telling me
vengeance.
is you can go Maverick,
Yeah, yeah. Except they
and
call it Rogue,
but
but
they should call it going Maverick, because
Maverick,
then
right?
that would mean there's Mega Man DLC coming.
What really makes it interesting, and I'm trying to recap this as quick as I can, but any gear, the best gear that you can find is from those areas. But anything you find, and I really think this like premise, the whole writing in this game so far is ridiculously stupid. But it's like, oh, this gear, but it's in this extra toxic, like, or contaminated viral area. So you have to extract it via helicopter first to have it serialized, and then you can get access to it. So, in other words, you pick it up, but you really don't get it until you get to an extraction zone. You have to signal a helicopter, or somebody else has to. And then it announces to everybody, hey, there's a helicopter incoming. It'll be here in a minute and a half. And in effect, what that does is say, hey, everybody, this guy has this item. If you kill him, he'll drop it. Because anything you pick up, if you die before you extract it, it's dropped, and it's free for all for whoever picks it up. So it's basically like ringing a giant dinner bell to all the other players. And of course, a lot of them stick to the I'm not going to kill somebody just to kill him. Uh, but a lot of them want gear, so they're going to come seek out those people. And it kind of balances out. It's terrifying when there's nobody around an extraction zone and you're the one to call it in. But what happens more often than not is there's multiple players that are all flagged, good, and they all have things they want to get out. So they'll kind of watch each other's backs. They don't want to attack anybody because that in turn will encourage people to attack them, and they don't want to lose what they have. So you have to hope there's like enough people around to kind of keep each other safe. What really happens is then players will team up and decide, if there's 8 of us and we're all out to kill players, you're pretty unstoppable. So then on the flip side, the good players have to join up, and it just creates this really, really interesting dynamic. And then there's NPCs thrown in there as well, and they're more powerful than the ones outside. And what keeps happening to me is I'll be clearing out an area trying to get the loot that they drop, and while you're busy attacking them, some douchebag will run up behind you and kill you. And so, I mean, you really, it pays to try to team up, or if you're going to go solo, you can, but be very smart about it. And I'm not smart about anything I do. That's
It
well known.
almost sounds, the way you describe it, it almost sounds like this game should be called The Division, because
Yes, because you're divided between. And that's where, like I said, the writing so far and the story missions and the dialogue and stuff, it's terrible. And I can't tell if it's intentionally terrible, like they're trying to be like super corny, or if it's just bad. But then the
you
overall story, it's not like the overall story arc is bad. It's just, it's uninspired. Virus hits and all hell breaks loose. Um, what I didn't realize, see, as much as I say I've been looking forward to this game, when I'm really looking forward to a game, I tend to stay away from like reading about it. I'd rather go into things fresh.
right.
You're a division agent, but you're part of the second wave division. So they're hinting at the beta gives you very little of the story. But it sounds like the first wave of the division agents went in, and obviously it didn't work. But nobody at this point really knows what happened to them. They're just not around. And through things that people say on the streets and little clues through the story missions and things you find, it sounds like they all just went to hell. And I'm expecting them to play a major role as one of the adversaries. Like they got in and realized that they couldn't fix things, but that they could use their abilities to like seize control or this or that. Um, you hear people a lot of times when they see you in the street say like, "Oh, you're not one of the bad ones, are you?" or stuff like that. Um,
And you shoot them in the face,
Usually,
and then
yes.
they know.
What really this bugs me about the game, it has nothing to do with the really cool dark zones, and it really doesn't matter. But it's just one of those like little details that really bothers me. You're running through the streets, and people have different reactions to you. But like one of them is people be like, "Oh, thank goodness you're here," because they understand that you're there to try to restore order and get infrastructure back up and working and get help. But then as you like walk past them, you have your gun out, but you're not aiming it at them or anything. All of a sudden they say something like, "Whoa, man, cool it," and just like run off like screaming. It's like, what the fuck? Or there'll be like two people fighting in the street, like one person's like beating another one like over. They never really show it, but it's like a tug of war. Like one of them has something like a food ration that the other one wants, and you'll walk up to them, and they'll both just like look at you like, "Man, I don't want any trouble," and like run away. It's like you were fighting in the street, and I didn't like point a gun or say anything. I just walked up, and they are like, "Oh, you're the most awful person in the world."
But you're from the division, man.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I fucking killed a guy over goddamn beer once, but you're in the division.
Not beer. What's more important in that game than beer are hats. Because you can change your outfit. It has nothing to do with your gear. So it's not like, oh, this hat is plus 13 armor. There's two separate categories. There's the gear that adds to your stats, and then there's the gear that changes how you look. And this gear that changes how you look is obviously the most exciting fucking thing that you can get because it makes your character look different. So yeah, I'd kill a man over a hat. If he had a cool hat and I wanted it. There's scarves. Scarves are extremely rare. I don't even really want to wear a scarf, but because they're rare, it's like, fuck you. I'm going to kill you and take your scarf.
I don't like when, this is off topic as hell, but I don't like when people wear scarves with like just t-shirts.
It's
like,
very hipster.
And like, even just, like, it's just practical. Like, you clearly don't need a scarf. Like, why are you wearing that? Like,
yeah, but I'm going to do it like every day because Expedition Unknown. Have I talked about that show on the podcast at all? It's like my new obsession.
You probably have.
It's like I've been meaning to bring it up, but it's one of those things that's not related to video games at all, so it goes on the back burner. But fuck it, I'm gonna interject it right in the middle of my talk about the Division because I really don't have anything else to. I had my thoughts all in order, and I would have had a lot more to say about the Division, but then the power went out at work, and I left it. Like I had it written on paper, but power went out, and it was like one of those. Well, we got to hurry up and like shut down the things that'll be a problem for, and might as well go home. And of course, I left my list of talking points.
How the hell do you write anything on paper?
I don't know, because I usually don't. I usually use the Google Docs because then I can access it anywhere. But I thought I'll be old school today. Bit me in the ass.
Yeah.
But Expedition Unknown's my new like TV obsession, and it's guy Joshua Gates or Josh Gates. It's funny because in the intro,
oh yeah, the treasure hunter.
Yeah, well, kind of archaeologists and
right.
And it's funny because in the intro, I love how he says, with a degree in archaeology. I'm like, what do you mean like me, where I can say a degree in law enforcement, but it's an associate's and it doesn't really mean shit?
I have a degree in killing Nazis.
All right.
It's like Indiana Jones.
Or does he have like a master's or a PhD? I don't know. He just says with a degree, which usually leads me to believe it's one of the lesser degrees that don't really mean anything. But he's very entertaining and I like him. But he always does. He wears the, they're not t-shirts, but the long sleeve shirts with the sleeves rolled up, which... That's not. I've done that for years because I can't fucking stand any like sleeves are the devil. Like nothing around my wrists. But he always has a scarf around his neck, and I don't know why. Because most of the time he's in places in the world where he's like, "Yeah, it's a nice cool day here today. It's only 150 degrees." You'd think you'd want like as little around your neck as you can get.
Or you want shit like covering you up so you don't, light on fire.
See, that's kind of what my assumption of it is it's more of a like, you get to a point where you think that you'd want less clothes. It's like, no, I need to like the sun is literally melting skin off, so cover up as much of that as I can. That's what my assumption is. But anyway.
But I'm talking like, rock stars who just like wear a black t-shirt and a fucking scarf. And then they'll say, it's not a scarf, it's a bidet.
A bidet? I thought you...
I said bidet. I just made up a word.
I would have believed if you would have said it with more... I knew you made it up, but if you would have said it more like smoothly and confidently, I'd probably like, next time I see a guy, I'd be like, dude, nice bidet. And he'd be like, what the fuck?
Bidet comes from the French bonjour.
Which means goodbye, get the fuck out of my face. I've got a scarf on.
It means farewell cloth. I always that's my favorite thing to do is come up with fake words and then like ascribe etymologies to them. There's
a board game called Balderdash that's based on that. And my friends used to always hate it because I would be so good at, because I love doing that too. I think I've talked about, I used to do that on my reports in college, is I would just like insert words that were completely made up, but make sure that you do it in a context that you can tell what it means, quote unquote.
Right.
And I never once, out of my like,
You're not going to get a professor who will like challenge you because they're full of shit too.
when they don't want to feel like you know something that they don't. So they're like,
Right.
yeah,
Great use of language. Like when you get complimented for that.
literally like never once. And I did it in every, like, it started in high school as like a joke. And then by the time I hit college, I'm like, I'm going to make a point. Every single paper I've ever turned in has one made up word, sometimes more, but usually just one somewhere in it. And I've never had him call me on it. Like,
I kind of wish, like, sometimes off and on we've had Ness edit our stuff for the site. I kind of wish I could just like shove some words in there, just see if she would call it out.
she would.
Because she's,
I don't think she's a
she is
person.
pure-
She's a word
Yeah.
processor, like, but a really
Yeah.
advanced.
You cut her and ink will come out. But it would be very blunt. Like, what the fuck is this?
Right. That's why I like her as an editor.
Yeah. And I kind of like it too because I like am terrified of like other people seeing my stuff. That's why I tend to just publish it and then like I don't look at it again. But
Yeah.
she kind of like you have no choice but to kind of get over that because she's the worst case scenario where she will tell you everything that's wrong with it if you ask.
Mhm.
So if you have trouble taking criticism, the best thing to do is it's like tearing duct tape off your skin. Just gotta fucking do it.
I've talked about it before. Everything we're talking about tonight, I've talked about before. So if you don't want to listen live, just go back and listen to the old episodes of the podcast, and you'll be right there.
Fuck it. The show's over. We've
Yeah.
talked about it before.
But I had a professor at the Art Institute that was like that, and everybody hated her. They're like, "Oh, she's such a bitch," and she really wasn't. She was just very blunt. Like, yeah, we're as a society, we're used to people like softening the blow, and she wouldn't. But
Right.
she wasn't like unnecessarily mean. It's just
Yeah.
you'd do something like she'd spend a whole like 4-hour lecture explaining like, well, this is how you do like the perspective of the foot lifting off the ground because it was animation. And if you didn't do what she said to do and you did it wrong, because a lot of us, you've been drawing, you're like, I know how to fucking draw. Don't tell me how to do it. And so you just do it your way. And it would look stupid. And B, she would fucking say that. She'd be like, what the fuck is this like foot looks like it has a tumor on it. Your, volume's changing from frame to frame. You're an idiot. She wouldn't have
Yeah.
the idiot part, but.
But you would.
And that was like the breaking point for a lot of people. It's like, yeah, you can't be in an art-based profession unless you're going to do something like where you're a performance artist or a street artist or whatever, where you don't have that.
I've kind of had teachers like go both ways, and I think from a writing standpoint, I like I've never considered for me school always felt like secondary. Like even though it was like English and writing, it's clearly what I'm best at. I never felt like I needed those classes to get better as a writer. So I never really wanted that teacher who like got really invested in like, you need to push yourself, and he'll throw a fucking chair if you don't, what is with page 5? You fucking stole this from the book, and, I never really needed that kind of hardcore
Right.
thing, but like, so for me it was always better to just get the teacher just be like, wow, you're really good, hey, and that's all I ever really wanted from teachers. But when I'm like writing for the site, I'm writing about stuff I want to write about. You kind of need that feedback. You need to have somebody go over your work, and you need to check it out and see what changed, what you did wrong, and it never really feels like you solve your problems. Like I still have the same habits, but it's just you're more aware, like in the long run, like what you're doing.
Yeah, and I think what happens, at least for me, is it's like I might like be able to identify that that's a weakness that I have, or that's something that I do all the time, and it doesn't mean I like, okay, now it's instantly out of my writing. But like you say, as you become aware of it and as you see it, I think you slowly start to like find other ways around it, and I don't know, hopefully improve. I really, really like to think that, for instance, the thing I wrote today on the division is miles better than the first things I wrote, back in 2010.
Oh,
But
I read a goddamn review from just like a year ago and I cringed.
yeah,
Like, and that's weird to say because like I feel there's always these like sort of gaps between when I write stuff and it's just sort of the reality of our site. Um, and I always feel like I'm coming in rusty, and then like I go back and like look at like my first few posts, and I'm like, God damn, I want to hug the kid who like struggled to get that shit
yeah.
out for hours that night because it didn't pay off. Um, but yeah, can we get more sidetracked on this fucking show?
No, no.
Is,
But
is there anything
these
else?
are our best shows, according to me, who is the only person other than you that gives feedback on our show. So fuck it.
Right. I just realized that this will be, assuming we can make it to like I think August, it'll be 5 years since I joined the site, and
We're
that's
close
like
to
a
that.
year. That's like a year for every fan we have. Um,
We're just dedicated. If you watch our podcast or interact with us on Twitter or read our stuff, we'll give you an entire year of our lives.
yeah, that's the agreement. That's the contract I signed when you like pricked my finger and I wrote it in blood. Um, so
So the
video.
division, yeah,
The-
really excited about how that'll come together on the multiplayer on the PvP or the Dark Zone area. The rest of it could get better. It's a little risky, and of course that's why I stopped short of like judging the single player or the campaign mode of the story in a beta because they're only giving you the first two missions, and it's not meant for that. What they're really looking for is testing the systems themselves. Like, does this game work, or can you walk through a building? So I don't know. I'm excited for it to release though, and I only have like 2 weeks. Yeah, I
right.
think it's exactly 2 weeks.
Yeah,
Um,
I'll be interested, like, because, it seems like they're putting a lot of emphasis on these betas and stuff. Like, I hope it does some good because we've seen so many rough launches, and it seems like the online aspect is such an important part of like what that game's like
oh yeah,
selling that game to
yeah. You
people.
have to be even on the in the quote unquote single player side. I mean, it's all online. It's all connected, and that is a big worry of mine.
Yeah,
I,
it's one of those things like we're at a point now where luckily a lot of those games kind of even out, but it's like we were talking about it with Street Fighter last week, like do you have the patience for it to even out? Like are you like with Street Fighter, I think it's really bad because like that game is not I don't know if that game's going to even be like considered a full game in my book until like a year from now.
and by then
Um
you'll be paying another $60 for it because it'll be
because it's got the first two character packs.
right. But
Um,
it's yeah. What I'm more worried about with Street Fighter was perplexing because it was more than just like the normal server issues. Like, oh man, everything's crashing because suddenly there's a flood of traffic and we don't know how to prepare for that. Apparently,
yeah,
but there was also like a stunning lack of content and just weird
yeah,
decisions.
it's like I don't think I've ever been so angry at a game that I never planned on buying anyway. Where I'm just like, how the fuck did this happen? Like I was talking
It's-
about it. Like a headline came out where like one of the developers like, we're looking into an arcade mode. How are you looking into like a fundamental mode in all fighting games? The answer to that should be, of course there will be an arcade mode. We're gonna we should have had one there to begin with, but we had to get this out as quick as possible. And like there shouldn't be like, yeah, we're thinking about it. Like just have a fucking arcade mode.
And it's so weird from a perspective on a series like Street Fighter that's one of, if not the longest running fighting game for franchises. Like, it's not like, oh, it's been around for a while or it's been around a long time. It's been around like for ages.
Yeah.
Um, Had to be early 90, 91, 92 maybe. I can't remember the very first release. But anyway, for them to make those decisions, I mean, it's a purely, you can look at it as what we talked about last week, where to me, it just seems super obvious that they're like, well, fuck, we just want to get this game out. And it wasn't like, if you had an artistic reason to cut the arcade mode because you were replacing it with something else, or I don't know. If there was any reason whatsoever other than just like, well, shit, we want to get this out now. We don't want to spend money and time making it. I I'd like to hear it, but
Yeah,
it was
that
so
seems like
weird.
the answer.
And to where I was going with that is on the division side. I'm not as worried. You know, there's always a problem. One of the biggest make or break things on an MMO is what's the end game content like. Because once you get through it, is there something to keep you coming back? And I'm very optimistic with the Dark Zones that there will be. So I'm. It's on that one. It's for me. I'm less worried it's going to hit launch and we're going to have like some
Mm.
huge fiasco that way. It's more like, am I going to even be able to log in for the first week, or are we going to have to wait for them to
Right.
like?
Because that's the other thing that's fucked with Street Fighter right now is like the servers are still busted. I heard it's like goddamn unplayable for some on the PC. Um, and it's just like, how many betas did that game have? And like, if you don't have an arcade mode, you're goddamn completely, damn near completely bereft of single player content. You just brought out this versus fighter and your online shit doesn't work and it's $60. Like, you're fucked. Like, they could not have bungled it harder.
Mm-mm.
And I only use the word bungled for games that really fucked up.
And I'm kind of one of those people that thinks, and you know, a hypocrite. I think we're all hypocrites on most of the things we say, but like you got to be careful before you have this like brand or developer loyalty where you're like, oh, you know, they care about their fans. They're always watching our backs. But something like in Capcom certainly being one of the bigger ones, it's not like they've never screwed people over
Right.
before. But with Street Fighter, that was the one that seems to be the like handle it with kid gloves. We love our community. We need to keep them happy because we understand that's probably what's keeping Capcom afloat. With especially with the esports stuff and just the various tournaments all over the world for it.
Right. You know,
And
they're
so
king of fighters right now.
right, and that's what makes it so weird that they would like. Again, it would be one thing if it was just server issues. Like, no, I'm not ever. I don't know. I can't like speak from a technical side like it should never happen because I don't know what all goes into it. But I don't want to completely like make a mock it say it's oh it's fine if your online game comes out and doesn't work for the first week because servers, you know, what can you do? I don't want to like just dismiss it like
That's
that. But that's a whole different thing than like that doesn't work. There's no other content.
right.
There's
Like, that situation becomes a lot more unforgivable when you don't have anything else for the game to fall back on,
right.
you know, and yeah,
And
it's
when
a
we're going on a week,
mess.
I get when you first open those floodgates, everything. I mean,
Right.
Steam's like that. When a game first becomes available, good fucking luck
But
downloading
there's
it.
just
But
like there's also little shit. Like Jeff Gersman, I watched him stream it, and like he was getting into matches finally, and that stuff seemed to be working, but he wasn't getting like the points, and like I don't know what they call it. I think they call them like fighter points or fighter dollars or something dumb, but he wasn't getting credit for the matches he was winning.
yeah, that's
and
nice.
and so it's like awesome, like, so the whole idea is like you're building up your profile, and like there's sort of this element of progression by, you know, constantly competing online, and like that shit doesn't work either. Like, what were you doing? Like, if the game is not ready, then it's not ready. And like, that's everything it says. Everything since it's come out, like, says to me, this was a game that really needed more time.
Yeah.
um it just it should add more content, but even if they couldn't make that happen, like, the content they did put out was not ready. So fuck you for that, Capcom. I don't know why I care again, but it's just, I know how much people care about Street Fighter, and if it was like one of the games I cared about and they did that, I'd be so pissed.
But
Like,
what's funny to me is all the hardcore Street Fighter fans that I know are like defending it. They're like, it's not that bad. The gameplay wise, it's really fun.
but that's almost more heartbreaking, because that's what I hear too. Is that like actually fighting and stuff is really fun. It's just all the shit around it they did not they didn't have enough time to make it all work, and so it's going to be one of those things. I know it will be where, you know, I would say as short as a year from now, hell, maybe later this year, that game will be really good. But, you know, how much will that matter in comparison? Like, you know, how much of an effect will a shitty launch have on this game? You know,
Probably none, because I think it's still a game. And to me, this is almost Capcom admitting it. It's a game that they're not really marketing or pushing to new fans of Street Fighter. It's like, we're putting this out for people that already play Street Fighter, and they're going to buy it anyway. So here you go.
That's something I don't understand, though, is like they put in elements of the fighting system to make it more accessible to new players, but all the fucking commercials and stuff are of people who, like, not only would they buy the game anyway, they got it like 2 weeks before it came out, you know, like just for being popular in the Evo circles and stuff. It's like, why are you selling to the one people who, like, you don't need to sell them. They fucking, it's Street Fighter. They're going to buy it, and they're going to bitch about, I think I said it last week, they're going to bitch how it's not as good as 4.
Right.
But they're going to play it for years.
But in fairness, it could come out and be way better than 4, and it'd still bitch at it, because change is change.
Oh, it has nothing to do with, like, fact. It's just the old one is always the better one in fighting circles, because that's the one they know. Like, that's the one they spent years mastering, so of course they like it better. Until they've played 5 for, 5 years, and then they'll make a Street Fighter 6, and then Marvel vs. Capcom 8. I don't know what they're on. There's too many goddamn fighters to keep track of.
Yeah.
So, the Division. Anything else to add?
No. I was very sad that they wiped the character data from the first beta to the second beta, because I had a really cool blue gun, but it's gone now anyway, because they were going to wipe it before the actual release, so can't be too sad.
Was it a Mega Buster?
It was. That's what I was going to say. The one thing that'll take the sting out of Street Fighter's like crappy launch is it's obviously because they cut like the team down towards the end to dedicate them to making the next Mega Man game. So you've got that coming. For sure. Confirmed here on the Njoystic show.
They do like those sports rumors, like, I can't name my sources, but it's almost a sure thing that Capcom's making Mega Man.
I love that. Like, according to an unnamed source who spoke with a neighbor of a friend I had in college, this is definitely happening.
Who didn't know Peyton Manning, but knew a guy named Peyton and a guy named Manning. So, anything else?
No. I've been playing a ton of Rocket League, and I really, really fucking suck at Rocket League now that the ball's back to being a ball and bouncing and stuff. But I'm getting better. I'm getting more and more used to the...
God damn it, I need a flat ball.
And it's like, and I finally did, because like a true American, when they first took Snow Day away from the menu there, I knew that they have it still available for like private matches or whatever, where you set up your custom matches. But I'm like, I'm gonna bitch about this without even looking into how that works, under the assumption that you can't just like search, a server for a Snow Day match. Fortunately, my assumptions were right this time. It's like, yeah, you can still do a Snow Day match if you know 5 other people that want to come like join it, right? So I'm sure it'll be back sometime. And we talked about, and I'd like to think that there's an actual valid reason behind taking it away, but it's disappointing.
But sigh, it was the best.
There's very few times in Snow Day that I'd get a running start, go launching with a rocket jump through the air at an arcing ball just to like narrowly slip past it without making any contact whatsoever, as the rest of my team's looking at me like, what the fuck is that guy doing? Right. Like, I completely whiff on the ball so much.
It's so fucking bouncy and floaty, and just, the puck was heavy, and it was fast, and it really felt like you really needed to put your speed into it. And the ball is just like this goddamn chaos. It's, I can't complain too much, because Rocket League was a great game before they added Snow Day, but since I've played Snow Day, like
Yeah.
it's hard to go back.
It's kind of like growing up your whole life and your family always only got cheese and pepperoni pizza because that's what they liked. And you're like, man, pizza's really good. And then you go out and you have one of those like fucking amazing pizzas with like sausage and everything else on it. And it's like, well, this is even better. I like it. And now you have to go back to the pepperoni. It's like, well, it's good. But I know what you're
I
missing.
can't go with you on that because pepperoni is goddamn pizza. Let's be clear. Like sausage and stuff is okay, but you know, pepperoni is goddamn pizza, and I'm putting my foot down on that. It's really weird. Like people have really strange, like it's almost like whatever your first pizza was, that's what pizza is to you.
Yeah.
So like you hear people like, oh, sausage and peppers, and I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like that's not default pizza. Like pepperoni is default pizza.
But the more fun thing when you have different toppings is you can make up some like stupid names for it. That's why I want to own a pizzeria, just so I can be like, you have the sausage and peppers pie. You got to call it a pie for whatever reason.
Right.
But then you have to call it like, oh, this is the spicy pig, or no, that's not even good. The slippery pig.
The sweaty pig.
Yeah, sweaty pig.
Yeah, you know, and I get pizza all the time with different toppings on it. It's just if you just say like, "Hey, we're getting pizza," like my brain just assumes pepperoni, and when I get there and there's fucking pineapple on it, I get mad because it should be pepperoni.
I like pineapple.
I think you should have to fucking warn people if you put pineapple on pizza that like you know you should have to wear like a shirt that just says I'm an asshole.
I'm an asshole. We have a place here that makes a BLT pizza. That's fucking amazing because it's got
That sounds great.
Yeah, it's tomatoes and bacon and lettuce and mayonnaise, importantly. And it's got,
I would hope so, Steve.
It's got, well, yeah, I mean, it's just all those things. And there's cheese, of course, because it's pizza. But it's got...
It's a BLT, but oddly enough, not a single vegetable
thing.
on it.
It's just olives and pickles. But what really makes it is it's got two crusts. You got the regular, like they make a pizza, and then they take a second crust and put it on top. So, yeah, it's pretty fucking good.
Yeah.
But pizza, we're not really a pizza podcast. We kind of are because we eat a bunch of pizza.
I eat too much pizza. I've been watching this entire show. I've been watching my own webcam, and I'm just like, man, I got a fat fucking face now.
I know. I've been like... I always
like,
have
I'm gonna have to get on the fucking treadmill after this because I'm just like, that's usually my point. Is like if I notice I'm getting fat, like I don't give a fuck if other people really notice. If I notice something's bigger, and maybe
I'm kind of hiding behind my windscreen tonight because my like double chin is making me extra self-conscious. And then I got this nice. I keep touching the wrong side of my face because it's mirrored, but a nice like scratch on my cheek. That's I can't stop looking. It's bugging me.
you should take like a combat knife and just go all the way with it. Kind of.
Because then it goes from like being distracting to badass. Like
Yeah, then you kind of look like you belong in Platoon, and that would be all right. People think you're a Vietnam vet.
Yeah. Here's one of those awkward pauses that I will remove, but I won't because I'll completely forget that it's in there.
Well, like this is a weird train of thought, but one of my coworkers, and hopefully he never hears this because he's a really nice guy, but he doesn't have an arm. Like it's like around the elbow.
It happens.
Yeah, and I always like, of course, you're around somebody, like your thought is like, you know, how'd that happen? You know, what happened? Because you always hope there's like a good story behind it. But I've never asked him, and like I realized today I never will, because it would just be awkward, and like, you know, what's he gonna say that like I could contribute to? Like it'd be a completely one-sided, like give me your information thing, because he's not gonna be like, oh, I lost it in Vietnam, and I'm like, oh, really? I found it. You know, well, I was just over there, and I think
you say that. And next time you go in, you're gonna go in and you'll have two arms, like not a prosthetic, just like two arms. You'll be like, "What the fuck?" And be like, "I found it. I lost my arm in college, but I found it."
I was a member of the Foot Clan, and one of those fucking turtles chopped it off, but it was in the sewer. Sure as shit.
I checked with the Department of whatever, Lost and Found. Is there a Department of Lost and Found? That'd be a sad government position to work, but maybe kind of fun.
Well, it's just one of those like plastic bins that just pull it up. Like, okay, we got a wallet, a
But they
cell phone, a human foot.
but they would have an entire like building with like granite floors and an elaborate like counter for one person to sit at. That, and you'd have to take a number even if nobody else was there.
Right, you're there for 3 hours
You go up.
watching the guy eat lunch at his desk.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I lost a phone. It had a red case. Have you found it? And without even like looking up from his newspaper, just nope. Are you sure? Can I take a look? Nope. Did
Yeah.
you did you fill out Form 37B, Section 3? I don't know. I don't know where I'm going with this. I know that you
I
have games to talk about, and
yeah, what yeah, I was about to go into something else, but we'll see if we have time after all the games discussion. I got three here.
I know it's crazy.
Outside of the usual lineup, I'm still playing the same shit I've been talking about when I can. It's gotten like we were talking off air. I've been working more like the past 2 weeks than I have been in well over a month, and at that same time, that's when like fucking all the games collided at once, and now like I have like 5 or 6 games I'm playing at the same fucking time, and it's ridiculous. Um, but a review went up for Devil Daggers,
Yes.
and I want to give that game its props. It's $5 on Steam. What it is a just survival arena shooter in the style of like kind of 90s FPS games, kind of Quake, kind of
Yeah.
like some PlayStation visuals, just real kind of low textured, skulls just chasing you and shit, and like you just start in this circular arena and then just shit comes at you, and the whole goal is to survive as long as you can. Um, but apparently, from what I've heard, the rumor is you can actually beat that game, but like the top 10 are nowhere near it. Um,
Okay.
so like, and they're like at 8 minutes or something. So just something ridiculous.
Yeah,
Uh,
you were saying that like 88 seconds was your.
yeah. Yeah. I'm at 88 seconds. I've gotten close to that time these past couple of days, but I haven't been able to top it. But it's such a natural game to like just open up and play a little bit of. Like it's a perfect short burst game. There's a lot of people that talk about, oh, I've been playing it all weekend, and that's kind of true. But I also keep, I turn it off all the time also. So it's like I've been tempted, like I just unconsciously we're doing this show, and I've almost opened it up like 3 times because I'm just like, oh, I'm at the computer, I'm not doing anything, I can play Devil Daggers. Steve's talking about the Division, he won't care. Um,
Yeah, that's what I figured you were doing when I heard the keys. It wasn't I'm
Yeah.
typing a tweet. It's a fuck, fuck, fuck.
run Devil Daggers.
Yeah.
Um, it is really goddamn good.
Yeah, it was funny because reading your review, what it reminded me, and not in like gameplay or anything like that, but what it is to you sounds like what Race the Sun used to be for me, where it's like, yeah, you can pick it up to kind of de-stress, even though it's extremely stressful. It's like this weird place you get to as a gamer. You can play it really quick, but you get like addicted to trying to beat your high score. It's not super like complex, but
Yeah, it's very simple. It's very fast paced. Like everything controls really tight, and it will like I haven't really felt this way about like a leaderboard sort of driven game since like Trials, when you and me were competing a lot. And like that, and the only thing in this is survival. It just records your time. It's really basic, bare bones.
yeah, so it's not like even how much you kill.
Yeah.
It's just
Yeah,
saying,
you only want to kill things because they stick around if you don't, and
Right.
they'll get you.
they'll get you. I'm gonna get you.
Yeah, and that's another thing about the game. It is one of the scariest goddamn games I've ever played. Just like when you start getting near your time and you think there's a chance you'll get a high score, you're just like tensing up, and then like you turn around and like, oh, a giant horned skull got you, and it's like, oh fuck. Like just the sheer variety of terrifying enemies who are just always on your tail, and you're constantly moving, just trying to manage the crowd. And at the whole time, you're also trying to collect these gems because it makes your weapon stronger. Um, and I've like the upgrades happen. Like I think the first upgrade you get after like 10 gems, and gems you get from bigger enemies. Like there's skulls and then there are bigger enemies, pretty much. Like that's the
Skulls
class.
and stuff is the other name of the.
Yeah. And I've gotten that upgrade, and I think at the most I've survived after getting that upgrade is like 10 more seconds. But there are like 4 or 5, and I haven't even seen like the first like quote unquote boss of the game. I've only seen it from other people playing it. And that's another cool thing that I forgot to mention in the review is you can check out all these times within the game. Like you don't get to see the entire leaderboard, so you can't just check every score, but you can check your friends' best times, and you can check like the 5 times you're around, and you can check like the top 10 of the world, and you just click like a view icon by their time, and it just seamlessly goes to their playthrough. And it's a game that's really fun to play, and for me, like really just as fun to watch, like because you see people like panicking, and just it's a fucking blast. And for some people it might not be enough. They might like there are no other modes. There's no story. It doesn't this is what you're getting. Everything I'm describing, that's the game. And for some people that might not be enough, but like I said, I play it every, couple hours. Like just if I'm just sitting around, like, yeah, I have time for a few Devil Daggers runs, and it always starts, like I talked about it in the review, it always starts with me really relaxed.
And it doesn't end that way, huh?
Yeah, you look in like 3 seconds. Just, you slouch and then like, okay, God damn it. Like you're just sure you can.
Yeah, see, that's the kind of game where, like, I'll sit down with, like, a sandwich I just made, and you'll take a bite, and you'll play around, and you'll take another bite and play. And then, before you know it, like, my wife's getting home from work, there's a stale fucking sandwich in front of me, and you're just sitting here, like, with white-knuckle grip on the keyboard, cussing, probably, because I tend to get vocal when I'm playing those kind of games, but...
Right. So, kind of the way the game works is, like, you start, like, first... you're just staring at the devil dagger, and then you grab it, and then like the sort of game starts properly. And then like these enemies spawn, and the types of enemies and the times they spawn all stay the same, but where they spawn around the map always changes. So you can kind of learn the game, and it doesn't make it really much easier. Like you still have to kind of execute. So like I kind of like that aspect where it's like it always feels like I have the chance to improve my time, but it's hard as hell, and I got I got to pull it off. Like it feels. Some people disagree, but it really feels like when I screw up, it's my fuck up.
Yeah.
It's that trials thing. You fucking hate it in the moment, but you look back, it's like, yeah, I didn't fucking bunny hop. I didn't do what I needed to do there. So that's been my latest obsession. Like, I thought it was really funny of all the big releases this year. Devil Daggers is my favorite game so far of 2016. But it's really fun.
And it might be like the first time in the history of the site that you reviewed something where I knew like nothing about it.
It's funny because I did know about it. I knew about it really early on. Because the main guy who worked on it, he was on the team that made Dust Force. And if you remember, I did not like the PS3 copy of Dust Force very much. The original developers didn't port that, but I was like, this game kind of sucks. So why the fuck would I care about this Devil Daggers business? And I felt that way up until I saw it and saw that it was $5. And I was like, well, what the fuck? Give it a shot. And it's incredible. Like it's for what it is, like it does one thing extremely well. And in some ways, I would, a lot of games could learn from that.
Yeah. No. I continue to enjoy this approach of let's make it do everything terribly.
Right. It's like no story, no other types of gameplay modes. Like the one thing, the reason I didn't just slap a 10 out of 10 on it is, like, I know as much as I'm enjoying it now and as much time as I'm putting into it, if like the best people in the world have not beaten it yet, I am never going to see everything that game has to offer. And then to
Sure
me,
you
that's
will. That's what YouTube's for.
well, right. But that's kind of disappointing to me, is because there is like so many types of enemies in that I would love to see and try to test my metal at. But the way that game's structured, you can't really do that. Like you just have to get really good at the game or you're kind of boned. But yeah, it's one of those games I think I'm going to play for a while. It'll probably be a game I go back to for quite some time. But in terms of like making actual progress, I know I'm going to hit a wall, and it's going to be a game I'm more going to watch other people break through, which is fine. It'll still be entertaining, but like it's kind of...
It doesn't have the longevity of some of the other things that...
Right, and I think it will have kind of this timeless, like, spectacle quality to it. Like, hey, let's play Devil Daggers. Haven't done that in 2 years. And then you fucking die in 2 seconds. But yeah, I think I really recommend it to, just about anyone who, wants something sort of like simultaneously lighthearted and fucking tense as hell. Just that really twitchy type of fun game that I can't, it is one of the biggest surprises of the year, just how awesome that game is. Other games, I bought The Witness.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, and like we kind of talked about it before I did, where like I think a lot of people, it felt like a lot of people were being unjustly critical of it. Like that was just my suspicion, having never played the game beforehand. Like it felt like people were saying, like you were getting mixed messages,
right?
Where people were saying like, "Oh, this game doesn't tell you anything," and other people saying like, "It does tell you things. You just got to learn its language, and learning that language is kind of the fun of it." And like in a way, it's after playing it as much as I have. And I don't know how far I am. Like, I don't really know how the progress works in that game, but I've shot a bunch of beams to the top of a mountain. So I think I'm making decent progress, but I think both sides are kind of right. And it's more like what memories kind of stay with you when you play The Witness. Like the first couple areas I think are really good. Like, the way it starts with like a simple puzzle and you kind of learn the mechanic and then the game just sort of evolves on that mechanic is really interesting and rewarding, so it gets to the point where you might get stumped by stuff, but you have the tools to figure it out. And it's like that introduction puzzle, I think, is really important. The one that kind of shows you like how the rest of the puzzles in a certain area are going to work. And then the game, after like the first 2 areas I went to, it just sort of stops giving you that intro puzzle. And like it gives you puzzles. There's still a difficulty curve, but you just walk up to a panel that you have to solve and you have no fucking clue what to do. and
you gotta be more smarter.
Well, you have to. Part of what I liked early on was you do have to kind of try shit, but most of the time, like there's only so many things you can try, so you figure it out kind of quick. The problem with here's where I really realized like something was amiss. You walk up to a panel in the desert, and there's just like it's a sun panel instead of like the grid that you're like sort of going from A to B with a line to. That's still the idea, but it's like a star shape, and there's no real clue around like what line you need to draw, because you can draw it all over the sun grid, but only one of the exits works. And the line has to be exact. And probably the worst thing that's been happening to me is I figure out how you're supposed to solve these puzzles, but I don't figure it out all the way. I don't get the exact solution, and the game gives you no feedback that you're on the right trail. So for the sun panel thing, I'll just spoil the how you solve it. It won't make a difference. The area is still a pain in the ass. Like you have to catch the light on the panel the right way, and there will be kind of a scratch that will show you the entire line. But some so not the entire line, I guess, because some of it's obscured in shadow. That's why you don't get the entire thing, and that's why you don't have any feedback if you fuck up. And probably the worst thing that's happened is just that feeling of like, okay, I figured out how to do this shit, but I don't have the patience for it at all. Like this area in the desert starts with that puzzle, that type of puzzle, and you have to do it for like 10 goddamn panels. And if I can't get the light to reflect just the right way that I can see it, I've gotten to the point where I don't give a shit. I just want to see what's next. So I just go online and I'm like, what's the line? Because I know how to solve it, but I don't want to fucking fidget around with the goddamn perspective that long.
Yeah.
And
that's what's funny about those kind of games. Quick tangent, but I played one of the, and I forget which one now, Monkey Island games that was on Xbox Live Arcade for 360.
Yeah.
And those were the kind of games I loved them, growing up. And LucasArts was great at the point and click adventure. But it's so hard anymore you get to a puzzle and like you said, you think you know it, but you're not quite getting it, to not just like go to your computer and say, okay, what the fuck am I supposed to do?
Right. Because it's that thing, like, I don't want to bullshit around. Like, I don't want to try aimlessly on a panel, because it's like, you can't do guess and check in the witness that much. Like, there's so many possible solutions that you have to be on the right trail or you're fucked. So in this desert area where I really hit my breaking point, and I was just like, if I get to a puzzle that I can't solve, I'll fucking look it up. I don't even care. Because I just sort of accepted that there are puzzles in this game that are really brilliant, but there's also, like, structurally, I think this is a pretty bad puzzle game. And the point I hit was, it's still the same idea of like catching the reflection, but you're sort of deep in this pyramid. I guess it's not a pyramid, but like maybe like a half-built pyramid. You're deep in these ruins, and you have to, because there's so little light, you have to reflect the panel off the water, and the water level rises and lowers based off like you just flipping a switch. And for some of the panels, it only shows as the water's moving. And the water moves extraordinarily fucking slow. But not slow enough that you can actually catch the line you need to draw. So it's like this pain in the ass. Like, I'm going to have to, in order to get the line I need, I'm going to have to lower and raise this water 5 fucking times. No, I'm going to just look it up. Because the fun to me is figuring out, like, well, how do I get the solution? But then I don't get the satisfaction of putting the solution in, because it's a pain in the ass. And that is not even the worst of the witness. That's just an annoying thing. But I actually really do like how most of the puzzles are perspective based. Like there's this really cool area before that where like you're in control of 2 lines on a grid, but you can see through the grid out into the water, and you see all these structures and stuff like rocks and trees, and you have to outline everything to make the solution. And you kind of have to, guess, like, well, do I need to outline this? Is that what's important? Or do I need to look at it from over here? And that's the outline I need to make. And I like those types of puzzles. The desert one's just a really poorly conceived one, in my opinion, because it's just fucking tedious. But then you get to a point where the game sort of stops playing with perspective. There's still areas where it does, but like there's an entire town area, and from what I've read, this should be saved for last. But it's just the bare bones grids full of shapes that you will not understand. Like I tweeted about this. Like my problem with the Witness right now is that it constantly adds new rules, but it doesn't explain them. It doesn't introduce them. Like that simple puzzle to start things off that would show you what you need to do just stops existing in areas. So you go up to a puzzle and there will be a Tetris block. And okay, Tetris block, probably need to make the line form that shape before going to the exit. And everything I've read has told me that's what you need to do. But I have no fucking clue how those Tetris block puzzles work.
Yeah.
Because like I make the shape and I go to the exit on the line and it doesn't count it. And then I like look up somebody else's solution and I'm like, okay, he has the shape, but so the fuck did I. So like, how was his more correct? It was an L block. I made the goddamn L block. And like, I know I'm doing something wrong, but it feels like that's because I'm missing some key aspect of the rule.
Right.
And there's just tons of them. There's tons of these weird ass shapes that the game does not explain how they work. And it's like, like I said, I just don't have the patience to try a million solutions until I understand. So, like some of them kind of explain themselves just by failure, but, a lot of them just will sit there. You get to one and it's like, hey, these are all little suns. And like these suns only work if you split them up into pairs. So, like, why the fuck would you associate that with the sun?
Well,
like
because if one sun is good, a pair of suns is better. I mean, you've seen Star Wars.
Oh, I'm glad you're not like sitting next to me while I play that game.
Oh yeah, no, you would have murdered me by now.
It would be like my brother. Anytime I play games like that, he's just like, he'll just sort of pop into my room and I'll be like, I don't fucking get it. And he'll be like, well, you're an idiot, and then walk away. And it's like, I'm gonna fucking murder you with a chair. So yeah, I keep playing it. It's because you do find those puzzles that are really satisfying, but you like when you get stalled. Like the problem I'm having is like a lot of people say like, oh, well, walk away from it, and then you might have an idea how to solve it later. It's like, I don't want an idea of how to solve it. I resent the puzzle for not like.
See,
because you don't build up to
basically
it.
just describing puzzle games, though.
No,
at least as I know them.
Well, that's the problem. Like, and that's my problem with a lot of puzzle games, and it's why the puzzle games I do like, I really fucking like, is because I think that progression is really important. Like a good puzzle game to me is not stumping the player; it's giving the players the tools to. Like, by the end of a puzzle, I should not be like, holy fuck, like, what? They never explain that at all. I should be like...
The best, to me, is the puzzle games that have the puzzles that you, like, by the time you get through them, you don't even know what you did. It's just like, oh, well, that worked. Like, I don't know why it worked, but...
Yeah, that's a great puzzle game. Like, no, I like having the tools to solve it. Like, I should feel like... Like, you shouldn't be overwhelmed by the fact you solved that one puzzle. You should be, like, overwhelmed with the fact that you somehow went from, like, thinking about where you started to how naturally you were kind of reading that puzzle and understanding it. Like, the comprehension in The Witness is just all over the place. And it makes for... like a game that's like, sometimes it's really good and I'm just like incredibly impressed with it. And other times I'm just like infuriated that like, cause it doesn't even come across as like sort of a Fez thing to me where it's like trying to like, I stumped you. You're the player, dumb player. Should have been the developer like me. I made a I know the solution to all my puzzles. And like the witness doesn't even come across as that. It just seems like it got caught up in its own momentum that like it didn't think like how people play this. Like they're not going to understand that. Like they're not going to have any idea what the fuck you're doing.
Well, apparently some people did because people beat it.
Well, yeah. I mean, but like I said, they have a lot more patience than me. They're the people who will raise the water level 5 times. I just don't have that in me. Like, I don't think a puzzle game needs to be horrendously tedious. And that's the thing. Like, to me, like the solution to a puzzle is a necessary, but like it's not the important part of solving a puzzle. It's like knowing how to get that solution. It's kind of that thing like, in Portal, you'll have some crazy puzzle where, you have to get to the other end of the room and launch yourself out of. And once you think about where every portal needs to be, like executing it, I don't want that to be a pain in the ass.
Right.
And luckily in Portal, I don't think it is 90% of the time. And Portal 2 got even better about that. And in The Witness, every time I get stumped and I figure it out, it's a pain in the ass still to get the solution. So, and the whole game's full of philosophy. So maybe it's like there's going to be some thing that just describes me to a T. It's just like, the angry man who fucking rushes to solutions is going to fucking die. Or something.
Yeah. I was going to say, just wait till you get to the puzzle. That's the only way to solve it is to draw what you think the answer is on a piece of graphing paper and mail it to them. And then wait for them to write back.
That's kind of the thing. And this is probably the game to not get stubborn about, but it was in that desert area where I was like I was half tempted to grab a piece of paper and draw the line out. And I know a lot of other people did it that way. And I was like, no, fuck that. I'm not grabbing graph paper. I'm not doing homework for this shit. Like these lines should be, once I figure out how to see them, I should be able to fucking see them. And the game's just built with like tedious shit like that, where like it doesn't happen all the time, but you'll solve like a chain of puzzles. And if you get the next step in the chain wrong, the game turns off the connection and you have to go back and solve the one before. And the one's already solved. So you just have to input the line. Like it shows you the line when you go back to it. It's still there. And so it's just this annoying, like, I got to fucking run back, turn on the puzzle, go back and try something else. And like I have no idea what the hell they were thinking by doing that. So The Witness is frustrating.
Sounds like. I can tell from we talked about the game when it first came out, how we were both kind of like, it was hard to avoid because everybody was talking about it. And I was like, the more I heard, I'm like, yeah, like, I'm not saying it's a bad game, but it really sounds like one that's not for me. And hearing you describe it, that only reinforces that. Like, I don't think I'd enjoy it at all.
Like, I'm kind of enjoying, like, it on a visual level, but I'm not, like I said, puzzle game, it's 50-50 to me. It is kind of a nice, like, it's a nice little virtual world to walk around in and solve some shit. And while you listen to a podcast like I do, because I'm professional and I always need multiple forms of media blasting me in the ears at all times. Mm-hmm. But people calling it like one of the best puzzle games they played, I'm dumbfounded, because it's like, you can be proud that you solved some hard puzzles. Like, I still argue like the structure of it all is fucking terrible. But yeah, that's, I'll keep playing it, because like I said, I'm not nearly done with it. Maybe I'll hit a point where some of this shit clicks and like it becomes rewarding, but I feel like I should have figured out these Tetris block puzzles like 2 areas ago in that game, and I still have no idea how they work. Like, it's almost as default now. If I see one, I go fucking to IGN's guide.
Yeah.
And I just, like, because I'm like, I'm never going to figure it out. Because I think I know the rules to it, but clearly I'm missing something. And, you know, like, on one level, you don't want games to have to spell shit out for you, but that doesn't give you free reign to just fucking make up shit on the fly and expect the player to like figure it out.
Yeah.
Like, without, like, the thing that stood out to me about The Witness was how long people were saying it was taking them. Because how much of that is like you're actually playing and like making progress? Like, of that time, how much are you just trying shit out that doesn't work?
Yeah.
And that's kind of like, you know, I don't have an answer for that yet, because, you know, if my playthrough is a million times shorter, then we'll know why, because they were trying shit out and I was just looking up answers. But yeah, kind of mixed on it right now. Well, pretty frustrated because I thought it started out really well. Other game, picked it up yesterday, Far Cry Primal.
Yes, the one that we named the entire, well, I say named the entire episode after. We're saving for the last.
Very end.
Yeah.
Yep.
Especially since we're like at our time already, so.
You know, we talked a little bit before. I don't have the timer for the stream, but, you know, whatever.
I liked your tweet about, like, oh, you want a new box? Go murder some turtles. That basically sold the game to me.
Yeah, so Far Cry Primal goes out of its way to make you feel like the biggest fucking piece of shit. Yeah, right at the beginning. You're like, you're the first thing you're doing is separating a baby mammoth from a family of mammoths to kill it, to eat it.
Well, it's easier to kill a baby mammoth. That makes sense.
Yeah, and it's still fucking hard. Thing's strong as fuck. And then after that, killed the mammoth to eat it, and then the game's like, well, go kill some goats because you need to eat. I just killed a fucking mammoth.
This mammoth back here is going to last me a year or two. Game.
Yeah, and so you kill a goat, and then the game's like, that's cool, kill 2 more. It's like, I only needed to eat, I thought. And it was like, no, you need to kill 3 goats. This game is very, like, it really doesn't do itself any favors for that joke about, like, find me 10 wolf pelts. Because it just feels like there's always, like, some sort of icon in the top left saying, like, go collect this shit. But kind of, you know, I find myself early on pretty forgiving about that, because exploring and crafting seems like what this game was made for. It's still, you know, it's still that Far Cry formula, and there is a story, but I was surprised how naturally it felt to, like, you know, I kind of get out of the intro area and the game's like, all right, go over there because you need to talk to this guy. And I completely went fucking another direction because I'm just like, fuck this. This is beautiful. I'm going to go hunt because I need a new quiver. And, like, the game, it just comes across really naturally to just go out into the woods and find shit. There's an icon on your map, go to it. Because it's way more interesting than the story, from what I understand. Like, the story is just, you are part of a tribe that's been getting its shit wrecked by 2 other tribes, and you need to rebuild the tribe. And, like, I don't care.
It does seem, and I hate to say this because there's way more creative people than me out there that would find ways to do it, but that's the one drawback to doing, like, a caveman game, is you seem a little bit limited on what the story can be. Because
and that was something I was talking about. I was like, I was curious to see how they would deal with that. Turns out not well. But, you know, it, like I like the Far Cry formula. I don't, you know, I still have 4 that I need to play. So maybe if I came into this game after playing 4, I would just be burnt out and done. But the fact that I'm playing Primal before 4, like, the formula is still some of the best open world gameplay. And I really like how the game feels. Like it feels familiar, but not having all those like not having a goddamn arsenal, on your back. Like you just have a spear and a club and a bow. Like those limitations make the combat really brutal and like it's satisfying on a certain level. Like it really hits the caveman in you, where you just like you see like a couple of like rival tribes people on your way and like you crouch down and you know some of my favorite shooting in any game is with the bow in Far Cry, and like it's just as satisfying here. So I like that. I like exploring. The game is gorgeous. Like I'm really surprised how fucking beautiful it all is. Like I'm planning to review it, so like I'm taking screenshots and I'm just like getting caught up in it. Like I've never enjoyed taking screenshots of a game so much. And there is kind of a cool aspect of like you go out at night, you might, there's constantly wildlife. That's something that's like the game is beautiful, but it's also, it feels alive in a way that only Far Cry games really do, where like I'm exploring and I just run and I like jump into a lake because I know there's a collectible at the bottom of it. And then I look up from under the lake, there's a giant fucking alligator. And and that alligator will tear you to shit. So I'm like sprinting out of the pool as fast as I fucking can and just like,
It'd be like me in real life, just screaming and running away from everything.
Yeah, it totally like if I find myself like, oh, I killed a guy, nice, and then like 5 more guys come after me, like there's a real frenzy, and it fits the time of the game, and it's something that kind of differentiates it from the other Far Cries. It's a little subtle sense of panic, because in the other Far Cry games, as satisfying as it was to take over an entire outpost, the only time I ever really felt like shit got out of my control was when I accidentally would light the entire goddamn forest on fire. This game, that still happens, but now everything feels like kind of a little less out of your control. Like something that's been happening a lot already, and I'm only like a couple hours into the game, is you'll get these missions along the way, and sometimes it'll be like, oh, your tribe is called the Wenja. So this Wenja member he's a slave to these rival tribesmen, so go free him. And I'll get there just in time for them to get attacked by a fucking bear. and I'm too close. And the bear knows I'm there. So he kills everyone and then sees me. And I'm just like, the bears are really tough for me right now because like I only have the starter shit. And I just turn around, I bolt, and I'm just like jumping over rocks and just trying to outmaneuver the bear. It is really goddamn awesome because it really does feel like a scene out of a movie.
Yeah.
But it doesn't feel like that in the like kind of way other video games do it, where it's like quick time event. Like it's just me thinking on the fly, like, how the fuck do I get rid of this bear? You jump over that fucking rock and swerve and and then get up on this ledge and you can land a few shots, and it's
and hope to God you don't run face first into another bear while you're running
into
away.
Another bear, exactly. And it's the goddamn woods, so you will.
And I say you're really describing what happens when I go hiking and I do one of those things where you walk through a spider web.
Right.
Like there's nothing actually chasing me, but I'll be swerving over rocks and jumping on ledges. Like, oh, like fuck.
Yeah, it's definitely that type of game. Like, and that's what I'm enjoying about it. I've heard a lot of people say like, it's kind of stale. It kind of doubles down on the elements. Like, you gotta like crafting to do this. Like, you gotta like the hunting aspects of these other Far Cry games, because like if you don't like that stuff, you will not like Primal from the get-go, because it just throws all that shit at you. But I enjoyed that stuff. I don't know if I'll enjoy it for the entire game, because I heard there's way too much fucking content in it for what it is. But right now I'm enjoying just getting lost in that wilderness, and I thought it was a really interesting sort of other side of the coin compared to like a Firewatch, where, like that game is, supposedly has a rich narrative, but nothing to do in its woods.
Supposedly, yes.
I disagree with that, but like you have these woods, but you can't really go everywhere you want in them, and there's not much to do out there except go to the point the game tells you to. But you give me a game like Far Cry where it's like, hey, you could go over there and this is your world and go fucking do whatever. And if you give me enough shit to do in that world, I will make my own fun. Like at least for a while. Maybe not enough to justify $60. Like I said, I'm really early on in the game, but you have a better chance there. Like there's stuff that can make up for a bad narrative in Far Cry Primal. Like the world is one I'm, really thrilled to get lost in. So it's like I said, it would probably, it might be too much if you're coming off Far Cry 4 and you're just like, because I can already tell you like, well, you should play 3. 3 is better than Far Cry Primal. Like I can already sort of tell that now. And I've heard 4 is even better than 3. So it's like you got 2 games out still that are probably better than this, but this one is unique. Like, being thrown into a Far Cry experience with just a spear and, whatever you can pick up in the woods is very interesting to me right now. And so I can't wait to keep playing it.
I say when I see the commercials on TV, which is like every 5 seconds, big marketing push behind it, it looks good.
I hate the commercials for it, honestly, because it's just fucking people reacting in streams. And it's,
no, that's not the one that I keep seeing here. It's all gameplay, but
the one I keep saying is just like, oh my god, I lit the forest on fire. Like you did that in 3. Like the one thing I do like about setting the goddamn forest on fire is how quickly, like it's all dry, primitive grass, and so like part of what makes the game look so good is like when you like you crawl through the forest and you climb over a hill, you're not going to see like a town. Like you're going to see more woods, and like just the view and vistas of this game it's gorgeous. And that also means there's a lot of fucking foliage everywhere. And so if you shoot a fire arrow and miss, you're gonna burn the whole fucking land down. And I guess it's supposed to be Europe, but I don't know anything about prehistory stuff. So,
well, see, Africa is where it's supposed to have really originated out of.
The fucking text at the beginning said, this was Europe. Like it shows you a timer from 2016, counts down to fucking whatever BCE, and says Europe. Well, and one of the girls there has green eyes, so which from what I've heard is impossible, but fuck that. Green eyes are hot, I guess.
So there's a hot caveman chick?
Not really. She has a weird haircut. I'm shallow like that, but like she has like the front part of her head shaved.
Weird.
And it's like a circle. And I'm shallow, but hair has to be kind of normal, or I'm gonna just stare at it.
So Far Cry's good except for the haircut.
It seems all right. It seems like I like that formula. I think it does enough things to keep me interested, but it does double down on a lot of shit that could get exhausting over a full game. It remains to be seen. And the story, just from what I understand, it doesn't improve much beyond its initial motivations, and really there isn't much of it. The motivation is, do you want to go fucking play in the world with a spear?
Yes, I do.
And yeah, my answer was absolutely.
Do you get to upgrade your loincloth?
I fucking hope so, because that's the one thing I'm kind of like confused about, is like so much of the game seems to lend itself to exploring it, and just building up your stuff and just doing whatever you want to do. But like your upgrades are locked away and you have to progress in the story to like get more upgrades and
Yeah.
more items. And it's like, I'm willing to do that because there's really nothing in the story that so far that has been really any different than the shit I can do on my own. It's just then you like hear some character like, "Oh, you saved him." You know, it doesn't really matter to me too much, but you know, it's also a Far Cry game, so there's a drug trip. I just had my first one last night, where you drink blood and then you fly with an eagle.
It's not a drug trip. That's how it works.
Oh, I
Yeah,
didn't know
that's
that.
what I did last Friday.
Yeah, yeah. And it was really funny because I wanted to capture a screenshot of that because once again, it's fucking beautiful. And I did it, but when you capture a screenshot on the PS4, it doesn't stop the game. So I caught the screenshot and then I like went back to the game and I flew right into a fucking wall. And so the dream ends. You die and you have to restart. It was fucking hilarious.
See, if you die in a dream, you die in real life.
Exactly. Uh,
That's
yeah,
exactly what would happen to me if somebody suddenly gave me the power to fly like an eagle. I would immediately like fly into a wall and die.
right. Fly like an eagle into a wall.
I'm
So
soaring. I'm soaring. What's that thing over there, Smack?
yeah, like that would be like me flying in real life. I tried to take a selfie, and then, like don't notice. Hey, there's a fucking building there. But yeah,
Now I'm just picturing standing, like standing around on the sidewalk waiting for a ride or something, and just seeing you like come out of nowhere, just flying like wee Smack.
right.
I
But
like
yeah,
it.
it's, you know, like I said, really early on, really early opinions. But so far, I like what I see. What I've been playing, it's been pretty good.
Fun is about the most important thing. So
Yeah, and maybe it might be a case of just being the right game at the right time. Like so many games I've been playing lately stress me the fuck out, or I just don't like them. So
well, in fairness, you started this year with Dark Souls, and
yeah, and I still have that shit going on.
uh,
I'm completely fucking lost in Dark Souls. Like I had to apologize at the end of my last stream because I was just like, well, we got this item, and I went to one place where you can use it, but it wasn't the place I needed to use it. So I'm gonna cut off the stream early, and next time I'll know where to go.
yeah,
And
I.
that didn't, you know, I'm still, you know, maybe I'll play it more tonight. But
But yeah, that and then XCOM too. So you really didn't give yourself an easy
yeah.
go for.
And I play NBA, and that shouldn't be a stressful
Forgot
game.
you're
But I'm a
playing that.
fucking
Yeah.
child, and I'm way too goddamn
Did your
competitive.
character punch like a personal trainer or something and break his hand?
No, he probably should have been arrested after the All Star game for assaulting one of the commentators because they're fucking dicks. Like, I got to the All Star 3-point contest. My character is not a 3-point shooter. I hit like one a game. Like I'm a driver and I'm a facilitator. I'm a point guard. You know, I can hit a jump shot, but like from far out, like when you create your character, they ask you like, is he a 3-point shooter or is he more like a go in for a layup guy? And I said, well, like I based it off myself. Like I can't hit a 3-point shot to save my life. And still they put me in the 3-point contest and they don't fucking tell you how it works. It's different than just
You shoot
shooting.
threes. That's what a 3-point contest is. By the
But
way, I guess we're supposed to say my username. So there's my username. That's me being funny with the chat. But
oh, hilarious.
yes,
But it's different than shooting, like just shooting the ball normal in that game. Like it's a different meter and it's a different speed. And like I got like second to last place, which is fine because I beat James Harden, who you know I fucking hate the Rockets.
Yeah.
So
take that.
take that, yeah. I had fucking 12 points. You had 8, bitch.
Now I want to see you like get tickets to an actual NBA game, and he's like coming out of the tunnel, and you're like, I fucking beat you at a 3-point contest, bitch.
I would not say anything to him because he would just stare me down with that fucking full ass beard of his, and I would just I would shrivel up.
You get hypnotized. I think that's how that beard works. Like,
Yeah, if he gives you the death glare, like he'll like smile, and he has like kind of fucked up teeth. So like I imagine if you get the death smile from him, you like shrivel up like the guy in Last Crusade after drinking the fucking Fountain of Youth or whatever.
Yeah.
Um,
See, I was picturing opening the Ark of the Covenant. They both work.
you know, well, they melted. Well, the main guy in the Ark of the Covenant fucking exploded.
Yeah, that's true.
But so I did the 3-point contest, and I sucked. And the fucking commentators are like, I knew I was gonna suck, and I was okay with that. But then the commentators are like, I really expected him to make more shots than that. It's like, fuck you. No, you didn't. I don't hit threes. I shouldn't have been here.
I'm the water boy, damn it.
Yeah, like I get 30 points a night, but that's because I'm very good at like cutting and getting to the fucking hoop. And I'm somehow my character is my height and can dunk. And I don't know when that happened, but he just started dunking because he's a baller.
It happens. I know there's been a couple players, not many, but a couple in the NBA
Oh,
that are
well,
close to my height that can dunk, but
In real life, a lot of point guards can dunk, and they have. But my guy, he's based off me, and he's like half the size of everyone in that fucking game.
yeah, see, I've talked about that before. So I love hate thing about I really love the whole my career like create a player mode in sports games. I mean, it turns them almost into like sports RPGs, and I love that. But I always want to make my player like me, base it off of me, because that's the whole point. It's like I want to be in the NBA or NHL or whatever freaking EA game I'm playing. Um, and then when you make a character that's 5'6" and like 180 pounds, they tend to not be really good at sports. It's weird.
Right. Yeah. I can't believe it. No, my guy is actually like, he's currently in my season. Like, he's the top scorer in the NBA. And I mean,
Well,
I can probably up the difficulty, but I'm playing on pro. So
I'm proud of
I'm
you,
not,
man. I am.
I'm not on rookie. But yeah, that mode is still really good. I am surprised how much like time I put into it. Like, I like you can skip games, but you don't really get money for it. And I find myself I really don't want to. Like, I like playing each game and just sort of seeing how it plays out. And do I like get better, or is it going to be a weird game where all my teammates are fucking cold and like, do we have to bounce back after getting blown out by 30? And
Do you get to give locker room pep talks? Like,
I'm sure if Spike Lee kept writing beyond your first season in that game, I'm sure there would be. But thank God, no. Like, that's the thing I still couldn't stand. Like, now it makes sense for my character to get like press conferences and stuff, and he doesn't. Like, they don't want press conferences with him anymore. But like, when he's like a 1-year fucking third string bench warmer, like, then everybody wants to talk to you. That was a tough loss tonight, huh? It's like, why are you talking to me? I didn't play.
you're like, oh, yeah, was it? We lost? What?
We lost.
I wasn't really watching.
Yeah, I did. Coach wouldn't let me come out. Said I had to do the laundry. Yeah, we should probably wrap up the show.
Yeah. But so lots of games. Hopefully there'll be lots more games.
Oh yeah, there will be follow-ups to what we talked about. I don't know. I don't remember what's coming out next week, but probably something good.
Yep. And then the division the week after that, and you won't see me for a while. I think I'll be. No, it's one.
We're kidding. Fucking.
Yeah, and it's one that I enjoyed the betas, but it's also one of those that it's like, yeah, I'll play it until I get my fill, then take a little bit of time off, then go back. I don't know.
Yeah, we'll see how it plays out.
Games, lots of good games.
Games,
and also pizzas.
content.
We'll have more pizzas to talk about because we really only covered pepperoni and pineapple and sausage and
we talked about the
peppers.
one that matters and the two that are fucked up.
Yeah. So that leaves a lot in the middle to go over.
Yeah, bacon. That's a tease for you.
Nice.
So, yeah. So video game content here, video game content on the site, Njoystic.com. Review went up this week. You wrote your thing.
I wrote a thing. It was weird.
Yeah, if like that might be your first thing for the year.
Probably.
And so
I think
I'm
there was
proud.
one other short thing, but
Well, I'm proud of you.
and to be even more shocking, there's a third thing or second thing, depending on whether or not I did right earlier. That's ready to go up, but I was just saving it. And it's funny when you write so little as I do. Like I could have posted them both, but I'm like, nah, it'll look better if I wait another day and then post it. So that's 2 days in a row of an
It's
active
not an
post.
official review if it doesn't come out at 8 o'clock in the morning.
It's
That's
true.
how I am too.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, it's like I could just publish this shit, but fuck that. I want people to see it when they wake up because that's when I get them.
Yeah, it was more actually between the two. The one I put out today on the division was the one that I enjoyed more and thought was better. But there is a secret review for a game that we totally haven't talked about or streamed.
Well, don't be cryptic, Steve.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it should make it sound good. What's a game that's not even like close to coming out yet?
Shinobi 3.
Yeah, Shinobi 3. We got this secret exclusive.
Here's the
Whatever.
exclusive. That game sucks, and I just bought it. $3 on Steam because I'm weak and it's a game I obsessively play. But anyway, that's the show this week. Like I said, Njoystic.com. You can check out the official Twitter feed at Njoystic. You can find Steve at Phaser3D. You can find me at Beeping Matlock. Toodaloo, you fuckos.
I don't know what kind of sign off that is.